The silk thread of Milan. Gia's world was measured in silk and seams. From her sun-drenched studio in New York, she designed clothes that were the darlings of the fashion press. Minimalist, modern, and perfectly tailored. Yet, amidst the racks of beige and black, she felt a thread of her own story was missing. It was in the old photograph on her desk, her grandmother, poised and proud in a silk qipao, a garment that felt as distant and beautiful as a myth. An invitation to a cultural fusion workshop in Milan felt like a dare from the past. Milan was a symphony of clicking heels and ancient stone. The workshop was housed in a historic palazzo, where the air hummed with ambition. Gia felt a familiar thrill, but also a pang of insecurity. Her portfolio felt starkly modern against the rich tapestry of cultures around her. She was introduced to Marco, a master tailor whose hands, gnarled and stained from decades of work, held more history than all her digital mood boards combined. For days, Gia's sketchbook remained empty. Her usual inspiration felt hollow. Frustrated, she pulled up the photo of her grandmother. She began to sketch not just the dress, but the feeling it evoked. Strength, grace, restraint. She drew the high mandarin collar, but let it flow into the sharp lapel of an Italian blazer. Marco, passing by, paused. He didn't speak, but gently took her pencil and, on a scrap piece of paper, drew a complex shoulder seam. "This gives structure," he said simply, "but allows for movement." A partnership bloomed in the quiet language of chalk marks and whispered measurements. Gia explained the soul of the qipao, the delicate panku knots, the subtle curve of the side slit that hinted at freedom. Marco, in turn, showed her the secrets of Italian tailoring, how to build a garment from the inside out, giving it a timeless structure. They worked late into the nights, the scent of espresso mingling with the steam from the iron. Their first finished piece stood on the mannequin like a statement. It was a jacket of deep jade silk, patterned with subtle bamboo leaves. It had the unmistakable high collar of a qipao, but the shoulders were sharp and confident, the waist tailored with Italian precision. Gia stood before it, her reflection staring back from the polished floor. For the first time, she saw not just a designer, but the sum of her history, stitched into something new. The showcase was a blur of camera flashes and applause. But the next morning, the praise soured. A leading fashion critic, Elena, published an article that sliced through the hype. "While exquisitely made," she wrote, "one must ask if this is authentic fusion or a marketable fantasy. By blending these iconic forms, do we honor them or erase the very cultural contexts that give them meaning?" The words stung, echoing in the sudden silence of the online chatter. Elena's question became Gia's own. Was she an imposter? She, who had never lived in China, who spoke her grandmother's language with an American accent. She walked the streets of Milan for hours, the city's beauty feeling like a rebuke. She found Marco in a small garden behind the palazzo, tending to his roses. "They say I don't have the right to do this," she confessed, her voice barely a whisper. Marco finished pruning a rose before he spoke. "Gia, the suits I make, do you think they are purely Italian? The buttons were once a Byzantine luxury. The silk lining came from your grandmother's country, centuries ago. Culture is not a fortress. It is a river, always flowing, always mixing." He looked at her, his eyes clear. "Authenticity is not about where your grandparents were born. It is about the truth you tell, and your work tells a beautiful truth." His words were a key, unlocking a door in her mind. Her collection wasn't a statement about China or Italy. It was a statement about her, about the space in between. Her identity wasn't a conflict to be solved, but a conversation to be had. She requested a chance to speak at a panel, organized to discuss the controversy. Standing at the podium, she saw Elena in the front row, her pen poised, her expression unreadable. She didn't offer a defense. She offered her story. She spoke of her grandmother's photograph, of feeling like a tourist in her own history. "My work isn't about claiming ownership of the qipao or the Italian suit," she said, her voice steady. "It's about my identity as a Chinese-American woman, an identity that is, by its very nature, a fusion. This collection is not a final statement. It is my first sentence in a conversation I am finally brave enough to have." Gia had not just found her voice. She had discovered it was the most authentic design she would ever create.